Good afternoon, evening. Hello. That's less awkward. Glad you're here. Welcome. We're just so excited you joined us. This topic, how to keep charged, is what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. So we're going to talk about this month of January, and it just keeps happening to me. Like things that, like on this topic, keep happening in my life. A couple weeks ago, I had my cordless drill up here, if you were here then, and I talked about I had this project, and someone over at my house, we were getting ready to start taking some screws off of a banister and remove it from a wall, and it died because the battery hadn't been charged. And it was great because it was just a few days before I talked about how to keep charged. Well, yesterday, I was working at home in the morning. I walk out my driveway. I'm late for a meeting because I'm late always. And I'm supposed to be somewhere else. And I turn the key in my truck, and it goes click, 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 because my battery on my truck was dead. Has anybody ever had this happen to them the day before they're going to talk about how to stay charged? I am truly God getting the point. I don't need any more stories for sermons. But here's what happened to me, and here's what I think happens to you. What happened when my truck battery died is I went into self-preservation mode. This is what happens when your soul, not just your car battery, your truck battery, your drill battery, or whatever it might be, your phone, heaven forbid, looks like this, right? But when it does, and when that happens in your life, in your soul, and just like the inside of you is drained, you do what I did. You go into, how do I survive? See, what I found myself doing when I found this inconvenience time, I have to be somewhere in just a couple of minutes. If I don't leave right now, I'm going to be late. I grab my wife's keys to her car because she was home, and I go in, and I'm about to sit in her car and leave. And I realize I should probably tell her that I'm about to leave with the only working vehicle at our home, in case she might just, randomly need to go somewhere. So I walk into her salon, and I go, hey, I'm going to take your car. I got to go to a couple meetings. And I almost thought I was really, she's like, oh, that's fine. I'll just use your truck if I need to go anywhere. And I almost let it just stay right there. Like, I'm just being honest. And then I finally confessed, well, that won't work because I think the battery's dead. And she's like, well, and she looked at her schedule, and she really didn't have anywhere she needed to be. And so I took her car. But I got so panicked that I was going to be late and miss the things I'd planned that I almost just left my wife stranded and lied about it so that I could get there. Because your battery gets depleted. My battery gets depleted. And life throws you this curveball. You get something you're just not expecting. And when you're depleted, when you're not fully charged, when that happens, you get, like I got, into this natural response of just being self-absorbed. You get the same way. The battery's low. The stress is high. And you'll do the thing that makes you feel safe. And if it's just leave your wife stranded at home, that's really not that big a deal. But some of us, when we're really drained, we do some things that are really negative. Because we get just naturally into this mode of, I'm going to take care of me. For some of us, we withdraw. We just stop doing all kinds of things when we're too drained, when we're too low of energy. For some of us, if we're honest, we take a pill, or we look to some sort of drink. Some people, this is where we find ourselves, is when we're depleted, we get aggressive. We start picking fights with the people we care the most about. Some of us, like I did yesterday, you just get mindless. You forget that there's anybody else in the world. Self-preservation always seems the path to get back to fully charged. Do you recognize that in your life? When you're depleted, we think the path to a full charge is to take care of ourselves. And we become self-absorbed. We go into self-preservation. Let me just say as plainly as I can. It is not the path to fully charged. It is so counterintuitive. What I want to focus on tonight, what I want to share with you, all the things we've been talking about this last few weeks, they're really counterintuitive. And this is especially, but the healthiest thing you can make, the healthiest choice you can make with your life in any status, but especially when you're drained, when you're tired, when you're anxious, when you're too busy, is to serve others. See, serving other people actually helps you. And this is where some of you are like, you got to really like focus hard right here. Because self-preservation says that when I'm tired, when I'm stressed, I can't help anyone else. I don't have anything left to give. And the truth of you, of how you're made and how you're wired, is that it's exactly the opposite. If you go, you can see a picture of it here. If you go on our app, in the sermon notes, the sermon resources, or this week's sermon, on our app, there are links to 2 different articles. This one's Harvard Health Publishing. I've talked about this before. It says volunteering may be good for body and mind. This is a couple years old. Here's what's interesting is the word may should be taken from that. Harvard Medical School, American Psychological Association, this other article for the Mayo Clinic. Hundreds of studies have been done. And it is scientifically established fact that people who volunteer for the benefit of other people on a regular basis are healthier and live longer. It may, the word may shouldn't be there. The 6 health benefits of volunteering, they're right here. That article you can link to in those sermon notes. What's interesting is just recently the American Psychological Association did a massive study, and they showed that it's not all volunteers who live longer. It's actually those of us who truly volunteer for the benefit of someone else. That when you take your time and you serve another person, some of us do this so that we look good, or for some sort of barter and exchange in the hope that they're going to, I scratch your back, you scratch my back. That actually doesn't do anything for you. But when you give your time away to the benefit of other people, it helps you. We know for certain that serving makes our lives better. And often we talk about these things, and it might make you feel like that as a church, we always ask for more of you. And I want you to just recognize in this topic, what we're talking about is that we actually care about you the most. Because if we didn't ask you to serve, you couldn't receive the benefit. And so I boldly ask you to think about this topic tonight. There are many people here who serve occasionally or serve a little bit. I'm going to ask you to think about serving a little bit more. There's many of you that serve, and you're totally engaged in this, and you serve on a regular basis in our church or in our community. Then that's great. For the next few minutes, you're just going to be nodding your head because you get this. Like this is you're the proof that this works, that this is what God calls us to do. And many of us, the majority of us, don't serve. And I want you to just consider, is now the time for you to do so, maybe for your own sake. I'm making a call for us as a group of people, as a church, to increase the number of those available, engaged in serving at our church. We really have to shift our culture into one that we are a group of people. We have to become more and more of a group of people that everyone participates in serving. That we are all here for an hour a week to serve and an hour a week to worship. It's why we have 2 services. It makes it really easy for many of us to do that. And you don't have to make multiple trips. There's all kinds of things that need to be done. And I think for some of us, we make the assumption that because what we think needs to be done is all being done, that we don't need any more help. And that's simply not true. You don't know the number of things we don't do because the number of people serving is limited. You don't even realize it. We have to shift for your own sake, for my sake. We have to be people who spend an hour a week helping somebody else and an hour a week worshiping God corporately, because we need both of these on a regular basis. It's the thing that fills us up. As a church, I want you to understand this. This isn't a new thing. This isn't a new direction. This is how we've been operating for our whole time. The 35 years we've been in existence is that this gathering of people called Christ Church of Flagstaff, we will put the needs of others ahead of our own. This is how our church began. This is how we've always operated. Maybe we used a different way to say it, or you've heard it a different way. This is the thing you need to understand. There were some people here last service who were coming to our church for the very first time. And I said, well, now you know if you join, like if you become a part of us, this is what we expect of you. Because this is what we expect of each other. This is what God has called us to. In fact, this is the type of thing you should probably take a picture of this with your phone and just like think through that for a second. What does that look like? You are a part of a group of people who've been trying to do this. And we're going to try to do it even more than we ever have before. Just let that sink in. You stick around here and you'll see this in action over and over again. I think of all kinds of ways that we're yet to as a group. Here's one maybe test for you. Let's see if we could maybe have a race to the furthest parts of the parking lot every week. You ever arrive someplace and you've got the best spot and you're like, wow, God loves me more than everybody else. Woo! Sometimes I get that way. But what if when you came here and that best spot is available and you went past it to a further away spot? What if the end parking lot were always filled first at Christ Church because we put the needs of others ahead of our own, even when picking a parking spot? Oh, imagine the day. Right? That's a simple thing. But doesn't it reveal our heart when we arrive? Could we be that people? That we as a group, it's a race to the back of the line because we want others to go first. And here's the thing, and why serving is so important. Sometimes what others need the most is your time. Sometimes what other people need the most is time. And that's why we boldly ask ourselves often to consider, where can you give your time? Where can you give an hour a week? Because when the followers of Jesus, not just in this collection of his followers, or in just the city or in this era, but in all places, in all times, when the followers of Jesus have gotten this principle right, they've changed the world. And nothing will charge your dead battery like helping someone else follow Jesus. Nothing charges us. This isn't just like me, like Pastor speak. This is science. Nothing makes you feel better about yourself than helping someone. Seeing God change can pump life into a dead soul. Jesus explained it in many places, and all of the New Testament writers talk about this principle. And here's one place I want to look at. Jesus, in Matthew 25, Matthew's recorded this parable Jesus tells. The parable of the talents, we used to call it. Now it's called the parable of bags of gold. I don't know why the name changed, but it says this. Jesus is telling the story. He says, again, it is the kingdom of God. This thing of following Jesus. He said, it'll be like a man going on a journey. He called his servants and trusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and another 1 bag, each according to his. Then he went on his journey. And the story continues. Jesus tells it, and the guy, he gives away this wealth. He goes on the journey like he said, and the people, these 3 servants, have this different amount of his stuff, his money. And 2 of them put it to work, and it increases. The 3rd one doesn't do anything with it, and he's in trouble. I mean, it's a great story. You should read it. And we often look at this story, if you've read it before, you've heard someone talk about it before, and we apply it often just in the realm of money and finances, that God doesn't give us all the same amount of his stuff. And that's true. But he's telling us so much more than just how we deal with our money. He's saying that everything you have is from him. That the things, when it comes to this idea of serving, he's just saying, just use what I gave you. If you're a 5-bag person or a 2-bag or a 1-bag person, he's not asking you to do things you're not capable of doing. He's saying, can you do what I've given you? Because it came from him. My wife was up here helping lead worship and singing, and she's really good at that. I'm really bad at singing. And nowhere do I get tripped up and think, oh gosh, if I could just sing like her, then I'd be awesome. And God could use me. Because he's designed me and made me to do things that she's really not good at. And yeah, can I sing? Yeah, technically, in the word singing, I can do singing, but no one wants to be around it. I don't know if it's diagnosable, but I'm fairly certain I'm tone deaf. Right? And God doesn't hold that against me. I don't get tripped up on what I can't do. I just look at, well, here's what he's given me. I should use that. And he doesn't expect her to serve places that she's not equipped to serve. But he does expect each and every one of his followers to serve him, to use the bag of gold in your hand for his work. And that includes your time. The very next thing that Matthew records after this story of the bags of gold is the story of the sheep and the goats. Where at the end of time, it says all the people who follow God, who've claimed to be his followers, are standing before him in judgment. And Jesus comes and he says he separates on his left one group, the sheep, and one on his right, the goats. And the goats is not the group you want to be in. You want to be with the team of sheep. And here's what he says. Here's the delineation. Here's what's the difference between the people who are going to spend eternity with God, according to this parable, Jesus tells very clearly, and those who aren't. He said this, the king will say to those on his right. Oh, so the right's the good group. That's the sheep. So those on the right, come with me. Come, you who are blessed by my Father. Take your inheritance, the kingdom prepared for you since the creation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison. You came to visit me. And this dialogue goes on. It is Matthew 25. You can read it. Matthew was standing there when Jesus said these words. And the people that hear this go, we don't remember seeing you at any time. How did we give you food and water and clothes and visit you? He says when we serve others, we serve him. And he says to those who didn't serve, to be away from him. And we look at this, and rightfully so, and often just think about the impoverished, challenged people in our world. And we think that the story is limiting service to them, but I don't think that's the way we need to look at this. See, it's true that there are people who are thirsty and hungry and need those physical needs. But I think Jesus could also say to a group of sheep, someday standing in this same exact spot, when I was a teenager, you spent time with me on a Sunday night. When I was a foster child in an unfamiliar place, you taught my small group in the Junction. I think Jesus will say to some of us at some point, when I was a parent of a special needs child, you served so that I could attend church. When I showed up nervous to a church, wondering if I'd be judged and accepted with my lifestyle and all the things that I've done wrong, you were a greeter who was friendly and helpful. When I tried to sing along to unfamiliar songs, your smile and enthusiasm on stage helped me feel comfortable. When I was hungry, you put some awesome Sam's Club cookies on the table. Jesus says that when we serve others, we're serving him. Imagine what God could do in your year. What could God do in this year, 2020, if you took action and gave your time for the benefit of others? Again, some of you are doing this. I hope you're excited that there'll be more people helping you, because many of us need to join. This is so counterintuitive, because you're going, I'm tired. I work too much. I'm stressed out. I have anxiety. I'm stretched too thin. Or some of us just go, well, I'm kind of comfortable. I've got my routine, and I don't know that I really want to. Here's the first step. Just take the first step. You can text the word serve to that phone number. You see it. And you're just going to start a dialogue. You're just going to get connected to a leader in our church of one of these areas. There's 7 different choices that will come up. You can text in church right now. That's okay. Not usually, but we'll make exceptions for this, right? It's just a step to get the information, to have the conversation. Not everyone can or should do everything, but everyone can do something. I want you to think about this. Maybe you're just like, I'm not ready to commit to that right now. That's okay. Just put the number in your phone for later. What would it look like in 2020 for you to give some of your time? Some of our ministry leaders, people who help organize and develop these things, they're going to be in the back, in the lobby. You can talk to them. I sent a text to 3 of my friends, people who are part of our church, who are my age, earlier this week. And I said, all of them are people who have jobs. They're married. They have kids. They're busy, regular folks. And I said, hey, what does it do for you? You and your family, the way you serve at our church. I just want to read to you a couple of their responses. One guy said, his name's Greg. He helps in the Mez a lot of weekends. He's up there in that crow's nest. Val's up there right now. She's doing awesome. Greg's up there a lot of weekends. He says, I feel God has called me to use my talents in the background to help those in the foreground. It's what my role in my work life has turned out to be, and I feel it suits my role in serving. The benefit of me serving is ultimately to help continue our mission of reaching those who don't know Jesus. What I do doesn't directly do that, but I've heard it said on numerous occasions that when the people who are leading worship don't have to worry about what's going on in the Mez, when he says he's heard it from the band members. One of the things that's cool, if you ever look back and Greg's up there, he's like rocking out to the songs. It's pretty awesome. He says he's heard from the people that are on the stage doing that they can see him and that his excitement gets them excited. He said this, if it helps one more person find Jesus, then I'm happy. Another person who serves our church, a guy named Joel, he said, I could give you 2 or 3 paragraphs on this if you want, and I was glad he didn't. He said, after talking to my wife, all the usual answers also apply, that we're furthering God's kingdom because Jesus first served us, because we were called to serve, because it helps us grow. But we both identified a charge that we get out of loving people and serving God that transcends all of these. It is a sort of energy and peace. I think loving people just brings us closer to God and helps us understand him better. What would it do for you? I asked the third guy, his name's Keith. He's really a busy guy as well. I said, what would you say, Keith, to those people who are thinking they don't have time to serve? So this is from Keith, not from Chris. He said, well, obviously, it's about prioritizing time management, but I'd probably more challenge them that they aren't as busy as they think they are. And if they're passionate about the call to serve and start going, they will find that it should be pretty high on their priority list. You see, Keith and his wife are here every Sunday night, most Sunday nights, serving high school students. And he says this, I have a job, I have a family, I coach soccer year-round, but I still find time to go fishing, hunting, family vacations. I think finding 3 hours on Sunday night and a couple hours during the week to hang out with high schoolers isn't easy, but it works. And somehow, just like with all God has given us, if we're using it the way God wants, it seems we have plenty, including time. There's benefit to you, just like there's been benefit to these families. Could you join them on Sunday night, in the junction, in technology, on the stage? What would it look like? You could just text serve and start getting the information. It's not a contract. It's not a commitment. It's just finding out more. And maybe the thing you want to do, you can't even do yet. But you can do something. We need more help. And I think for some of us, we're letting a story in our mind hold us back. See, some of us think that before you can serve at a church like this you need to become like Dr. Johnny Kim. You guys know who Dr. Johnny Kim is? He's famous this week for about 2 minutes. This is Dr. Johnny Kim. He's got to be like, I don't know, he's my new hero. Just a couple things you'll notice if you know about these things in this picture. One, he's an astronaut. That's why he's wearing a NASA jumpsuit, right? Flight suit. That's the NASA sticker thing, patch. I get it all wrong. Next to that, you might not recognize that. That's a Navy SEAL trident, because Dr. Johnny Kim, before he joined NASA, which he just finished training last week, that's why he's in the news, was enlisted in the Navy, joined the Navy SEALs, qualified, became a sniper in the Navy SEALs, became a medic, became a specialist, was in over 100 combat missions, then left the Navy SEALs active duty, went into reserve duty so he could attend Harvard Medical School. That's why his name's Dr. Johnny Kim. During his residency as a surgeon, he was recruited by NASA and just finished 2 years of their training to be an astronaut. Dr. Johnny Kim, my friends. Here's things you learn in NASA's astronaut training. I don't know what you've done with the last 2 years of your life, but what Dr. Johnny Kim has done is he learned how to fly a T-38 jet, how to do spacewalk, the whole entire field of robotics, how to operate all of the mechanisms of the International Space Station, and learned how to speak Russian. Dr. Johnny Kim is 35 years old, my friends. What are you doing with your life? You do not have to be Dr. Kim to serve in God's church. Well, that guy's awesome. I mean, like, that's impressive. Like, his resume makes me tired. And I'm glad he did that. Some of you think you've done something wrong, or you don't know enough, or you haven't been through enough training, or you don't know the Bible, you've never even read a Bible. That's okay. It will help you. When you put others ahead of you, God uses it. You don't have to be Dr. Johnny Kim to impact this world. He just wants you to use what he put in your hands. The bag of gold, your talent, your personality, all your experiences, the good and the bad, that's what he's given you to serve, to make a difference, to do what he called you to do, not what he called someone else to do. So quit waiting until you get through all of the things. Quit waiting until some magical day appears where it's different. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have any answers or all the answers. What keeps you from serving? Jesus said that when we serve him. Whatever you did for the least of these brothers, the drinks of water, the food, the visits, the helping the sick, the clothing those who needed clothes, the king, who is Jesus, replied to that group questioning, how did we serve you when you came on Sunday night? When you led a life group and just were good to the people around you, when you serve others, when you're a greeter and usher, you're serving Jesus. You don't have to go through life with the dead soul. You don't have to go through life drained and anxious. You can serve others. And by doing so, let Jesus keep you charged. But see, for many of us, we aren't fully charged. We are tired and we're overwhelmed and we're overburdened because our life isn't being built upon the things Jesus told us to, upon him and his ways. You can keep doing what you're doing, or you can make a change. We sang this song a few minutes ago that we're going to end with. Build My Life is the name of the song. And to say, I will build my life upon you, God, your love. To say that it's a firm foundation is what we said. We said we put our trust in him alone. And then we turn around and just keep living the way we want to live, not the way he asks us to live. But we can build it on him. We can take a step that might start with a conversation, a text, or just a decision. Start putting the needs of others ahead of your own. That is truly how you put your trust in God. Would you stand and join Garrett as he leads us in this?